Where did Martin Bormann disappear to? The mystery of the Gray Cardinal of the Third Reich. Martin Bormann was born on June 17, 1900. During World War I, he was an artilleryman in the German army. In the 1920s, Martin Bormann became one of the leaders of the NSDAP. He was on very good terms with Adolf Hitler. In 1929, Hitler was Bormann's witness at his wedding. At the age of 30, Martin Bormann was already in charge of all the party's finances, as well as managing the Führer's property. According to a number of his contemporaries, Martin Bormann was the Gray Cardinal of the Third Reich, and in fact, through intrigue and skillful deception, directed Hitler's activities in the direction he wanted. On April 29, 1945, Martin Bormann was a witness at the marriage of Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun. And on May 1st, his traces are lost, which gave food for many guesses and hypotheses about his fate. 3 of them seem more plausible. The first, Martin Bormann fled to South America with the party's gold and became a large landowner. Second, in 1939, Martin Bormann was recruited by Soviet intelligence and worked for the USSR throughout the war, and on April 29, 1945, convinced that Adolf Hitler was dead, he surrendered to Soviet troops and then secretly lived in the USSR. Third, on May 1, 1945, Martin Bormann, on his way from the Führer's bunker to his Air Admiral Dönitz, noticed Soviet soldiers everywhere. Confused, he took poison, and since his body was not identified, he was buried as unknown. The first official search for Martin Bormann began by the English officer Hortin, who was instructed to notify him that on November 20th, 1945, over him and 23 other leaders of the Nazi Party in the city of Nuremberg will open a trial. However, Martin Bormann could not be found. Around the same time, Arthur Axmann, the leader of the Hitler Jugend, was arrested and told that he had escaped from the leader's bunker with Martin Bormann, Adolf Hitler's physician Stumpfegger, and several other of the Führer's cronies. According to him, he saw Bormann and Stumpfegger dead near Lörter Station. They had taken potassium cyanide. His testimony was corroborated by the words of Adolf Hitler's chauffeur, Erich Kempke, although the latter claimed that Bormann died as a result of a shell explosion. However, the judges did not believe their testimony, and on October 1, 1946, Martin Bormann was sentenced to death in absentia. This was the beginning of legends about the subsequent life of one of the Nazi leaders, which then began to be announced in various countries around the world. In 1949, former German center politician Paul Gesslein allegedly saw him in Chile. In 1954, Martin Bormann was declared dead by court order, but even this did not put an end to his appearance. In 1959, former SS man Werner Heide reported that after the war, while in Denmark, he helped Bormann cross to South America. Given that in 1960, another prominent Nazi figure, Eichmann, was kidnapped in Argentina by Israeli secret services, this version turned out to be very plausible. In 1971, the first chairman of the intelligence service of the FRG Gehlen told the world that Martin Bormann was an agent of Soviet intelligence, and after the war he lived in the USSR. However, his story is hard to believe. In 1996, former British intelligence officer Crichton, in his book, claimed that Martin Bormann was smuggled to England, as Winston Churchill was interested in getting the money of the Nazis, and only the chief financier of the party could help in this. However, let's go back to 1972. During roadworks in Berlin, workers found 2 well-preserved skeletons. According to anthropometric data, the skeletons found corresponded to Stumpfegger and Martin Bormann. One of them also showed signs of a healed forearm fracture. Stumpfegger broke his arm in 1923, and another had an improperly spliced collarbone after a fracture. In 1938 or 1939, according to his sons, Martin Bormann broke his collarbone when he fell from his horse. Shards of glass were found among the teeth of the skeletons found, which could indicate that they had both taken ampoules of poison. The analysis of the jaws of the dead accurately established that one of them was Stumpfegger, and in the second case opinions differed as lifetime pictures of Martin Bormann's teeth have not survived. The final point in this story was put in 1997, when by analyzing DNA was established kinship between Amalia Folborg, great-niece of Martin Bormann, and the remains of the second deceased found in 1972 in Berlin.